It is 5:30, and for those who are here on time, we're going to start on time. And so I appreciate y'all coming out to our, for lack of a better term, town hall meeting. And so I appreciate you coming out and being and supporting that. We appreciate also those from the city who come out to be a part of this. And so I'm just looking forward to hearing what they got to say, and I know you are too. You should have got an itinerary agenda when you came in. That is what we're going to be following as we go through this time. There will be a question and answer time at the end. One of them will let you know that the microphone stand here in the middle. That is the place where you go if you got a question. We will have the microphone on. We are live streaming this event. However, you are not on the camera, so don't worry about it. But if you got a question, please come up to the microphone so that way the question is heard not just in the house but also on our live stream service. Okay, so if you got a question, that's where we would go. Okay, does everybody understand that? Okay, so I'm going to have a word of prayer, and then I'm going to introduce our first speaker, and then you're going to just follow one at a time. And then once we go through all five of our guests, then we'll go into our question and answer time. All right? So let's have a word of prayer, and we'll begin this time. Father, I want to thank you for the opportunity that we have, Lord, to come to here. And Father, we get to hear what's going on in our city. And Father, we get to be able to get some understanding, Father, of how things work here. And Lord, I just pray that you would just guide our time together. And Lord, that you would just help us, Lord, as when we walk out of here today, that we'll be much more informed. Thank you for this time that you give us in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, our first speaker that we're going to have tonight, I felt it was the most appropriate to have our city commissioner that represents this area of 32127, the Harbor Oaks community, to come first. And so some of you might even know who he is, but this is why we do these things, all right? And so, Mr. Foley, I'm going to turn the floor over to you, sir. So thank you for coming.
There we go. All right, awesome. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for allowing us to be here. This was all actually Pastor Mike's idea. He reached out to me maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and he was talking about how they used to do these meetings before, and we'd get faces from the city would come in and answer questions and spend time with you. And so I asked the city manager if he'd be willing to put together a team, and he'd asked if I could help with that. And we're very excited to be able to come here before you and just kind of answer questions and talk to you a little bit about who we are and what each one of our roles are. They're all going to introduce themselves here one by one whenever I get done. So I'll save that for them. But, for myself, I've lived here in Port Orange since I was 4 years old. I am now 30, so 25 years I've been here. I know I'm still young, and everyone jokes at it. Yes, go ahead, laugh. I'm not offended. But I've lived here since I was 4 years old. I love this town. I'm so glad I get to call it home. I actually, of course, being the District 1 rep, I live right over here in Sleepy Hollow, not far away at all. I eat breakfast at Tim's a lot. In fact, I see one or two faces I recognize in here who probably frequent that place even more than I do. But yeah, I am one of the 5 members that serve on city council, and so I'm 20% of the vote on anything that comes on our agenda. The mayor runs the meetings, and then I'm one of the people who's able to make motions to help things pass through. I'm one of your representatives. If you ever have questions, comments, concerns, whether you email, phone call, in person, I will meet with you and take those usually to the city manager where we get staff to act on it. So that's kind of my role in the city as a very 10,000-foot view. I want to introduce the next person, the city manager, who actually is the one who helped orchestrate this as well. This is Wayne Clark. He's going to introduce himself, and we'll just kind of go down that line. But yeah, looking forward to hearing your questions and spending some time with y'all this evening.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Wayne Clark, city manager. I am the staff leader of the 500 or so men and women who serve the city. The departments, 3 of the department heads, which you'll hear from tonight. I have been the city manager for about a year and a half now. I did spend about a decade also in the city in the community development department. So I've been here, either here in the building in the back multiple times for HOA meetings and other things down in this area over the last decade or so. But I've been in the city manager role for about a year and a half. As you heard from Councilman Foley, I work for the 5 city council members and then lead all the other staff members going forward. So as a resident of the community, I know we make one of the most important goals we have in the city. We're well known for being an attractive, safe, family-oriented community. And so as we go forward with our strategies and priorities, we're always keeping that in mind, is how can we find this community a way to be safer, and attractive. And one of the reasons we do that, come out here and talk to you, is to hear and understand what's important to you as we move forward. So I'm going to turn it over to the rest of the department heads, because they're the ones who do all the work and interact with you individually. Let them talk to you, and then looking forward to taking your questions when we get completed.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Pastor Mike, thank you for the invitation. It's our pleasure, obviously, to be here. Introduce myself very quickly. My name is Manny Marino. I'm your chief of police. I came into this position October of last year, so I'm 10 months into my new chief's position here in Port Orange. I'd been coming to Volusia County and New Smyrna for probably the last 20 years. I actually had a property in New Smyrna before I became chief. Prior to here, I spent 27 years almost with the City of Hollywood Police Department in South Florida, where I started as an officer in 1995, went up through the ranks, and left there as the assistant chief of police to come here and be the chief. So it's an awesome community. I love the fact that everybody's so dedicated to the city, the family-oriented events that we have, and the police officers themselves and how they approach their work every day is amazing to me. So I look forward to taking questions from you, and I have some business cards. If anyone needs my contact information, I'll be glad to hand them out when we're through. So thank you.
Joe Wolfing, I'm your fire chief. I started with the city as a firefighter paramedic in 1999. Slowly rose through the ranks until I was promoted to chief last year. It was an honor to serve the city. But a little bit about our fire departments. We have 5 fire stations located within the city. The fire station that serves this district is located up by Dunlap now. It's Fire Station 71. It's one of our busier stations. I believe it runs around 3,500 emergency calls per year. So it's if you ever go there and knock on the door and they don't answer, you know where they're at. So they're running calls. But overall, we have our 5 stations. We run 10,000 calls for requests for emergency and non-emergency calls. Other services that we offer, we come out and help people put in smoke detectors. We do retrofits. We help with pets if they get locked in cars. Water salvage, all sorts of things that we come out to the community and help with. So if you also sharps disposal, so if you have any diabetics that have needles, they can always come to one of our fire stations and drop it off, and we'll even get it. So, other than that, we've been over the years. In '99, we started out. We were at about 3,000 calls. Last year, we were over 10,000. This year, we're about 20% over where we're going to be. So we're going to come in maybe around 11,000 calls this year. So we're an extremely busy fire department. We started in 2019. We had a part-time transport program to take 6 people to the hospital. They went full-time January 1 of this year, and it is now the busiest ambulance in the town. So we have 54 firefighters that serve you. They work with 24, 48 schedules, so you always have 5 fire engines and 1 ambulance that will come and help when you need us. Obviously, you know, call 911 when you need us. And then we also have on our website, if it's not an emergency, we have numbers that you can call for non-emergency response. And a lot of information also on our website on where you can take fire extinguishers that have expired, your paints, all sorts of stuff. We'll take this out. If you have any questions at the end, I'll be happy to.
I guess I get to bring up the tail end, huh? My name is Lynn Stevens. I'm your Public Works and Utilities Director. I've been with Port Orange about 6 years, although I've been in the utility industry for over 12 years. So I've been in many communities, many municipalities around the state of Florida. I've made Port Orange my home now, so I'm very happy to serve. If you're not familiar with what Public Works and Utilities does, everything these guys don't do usually winds up on my desk. So we're responsible for all water, sewer, trash, stormwater, roads, sidewalks, just about any other thing you can think of falls into our department. So some of the takeaways that I hope you understand is when it comes to stormwater, we do our very best. I think we've done a tremendous job improving stormwater throughout the city over the last few years. There is a lot of stormwater conveyance systems that are owned and operated by the county or the state. So we have to keep that in mind. So sometimes when you call about a drainage issue, it may or may not be ours. We have maps that tell us which ones are ours. When it comes to roads, same thing. You know, many of the roads in our community are not just the city, but they may belong to the state. Dunlawton, Ridgewood, Nova, those are state roads. And then we have quite a few county roads that run through our city that are maintained by the county. So usually when you bring a problem to us, pothole or something else, what we'll do is make sure that it gets to the right owner of the infrastructure. When it comes to water and sewer, one of the things that we ask all of our residents, if you're experiencing a problem, before you call a plumber, please call us. Oftentimes we can save you a lot of heartache for the plumber and a lot of expense if you'll just call us first. Because we can come out and help you troubleshoot, determine if it's your side of the meter, our side of the water meter, determine if the blockage is on your side or our side. And a lot of times we can help with that before you go and call a plumber. For the plumber to come out, charge you a couple $100 just to say, well, that's on the city side. So we do have a 24-hour number. It is on our city website. We are always available. Our water and wastewater plants run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I'll be available if you have any questions or concerns.
All right. Everybody's introduced himself now, so you kind of know who's who. And so at this point, we're going to open up for questions, and we're going to turn on the microphone here in the middle. I would just ask, first of all, if you come up to the microphone, try to speak as close to the microphone as you can, because when it's like this far away, it's not going to be picked up very well on our live stream. So get about this close as you can without eating the microphone. And so, and that goes for our guest as well. Sometimes it's not getting picked up, and if it's not on a microphone, our live stream's not going to get it. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the microphone turned on, and we're going to do one question at a time, one person at the microphone at a time. If you've got a question and there's a microphone, feel free to walk up. But I would ask that you please say, my question is directed to, and that way the person up here knows who's going to get it, who's getting the softball or the fastball, whatever it might be. So at this time, we're going to whoever has a question, go ahead and make your way up to the microphone, and then we're going to work it from there. We'll go ahead and turn this on.
Heading for the exit. Come on, guys. I'm Mike Mellon. I live on Riverside Drive. I'm Mike Mellon. I live on Riverside Drive, just north of Main Street. And before I start, I spent almost 40 years in law enforcement and EMS. So I will commend Port Orange's public safety, fire, rescue as a great, great organization.
Yeah.
Very good. Having said that, two questions. Probably the first would be directed at the city manager. Reference development, rumors. Property on Riverside Drive on the south end has about 150 feet of waterfront. It's owned by the Smith, was owned by the Smith people. Rumor has it they're trying to put an apartment complex in there.
They had plans in at one point, and then they let them expire. So it's not an active project right now, but they could do that at some point in the future.
If it's allowed in zoning.
It is, yes.
It is allowed in
Yes,
zoning?
yes, it is.
Multifamily?
Yes.
Okay. Which then would, the property on the other end, up just north of Seminole, is approved. That was for townhouses.
If I'm understanding the property, it crosses the street, right? You're talking about the one that has the wall in front of it? Yes, yeah, that's it. You're correct, yes.
The second question I have is in reference to law enforcement. That's not law enforcement. Riverside Drive is a nice residential community. I have asked years ago with Ken Parker and Joe Johnson, Jake, traffic calmers. If you would, Chief, look at these two photos. One is from the, my camera's terrible, by the way. They're self-explanatory. There's been several wrecks in that area over the years. And I'm wondering about traffic calmers. I've heard, oh, they're bad for vehicles. They're hard on the fire trucks. But Daytona seems to be able to use them quite effectively on the beach side. They're low, they're wide, they're not the big old speed humps we used to see. So I would like you to consider that. And as the chief can see, and those are that's about a month and a half ago, so they faded out pretty good, but it's still there on Main Street, Main and Riverside.
There are a lot of different ways to calm traffic through physical things on the roadway. And our ordinance doesn't allow speed humps, which you were saying you weren't even talking about that anyway. We have those prohibited because of the impact on the emergency vehicles and response times. But there are other ways to do it. You can have the flatter tables, which I think is what you're referring to, and you can calm it by even turning. You can do it horizontally by putting islands in the road that slows you down. So there are a variety of ways to do that. Those generally would happen through some kind of a construction project that the city would put into an out budget, but it would require working with the residents of the area to do that going forward. So we'd want to make sure before something like that was done that the council would like us to go down that path, and then we would end up talking to all the residents just to make sure that it was a large percentage of the people would want to see something like
Well, and actually, it's interesting. So I actually had a resident reach out maybe 2 months ago with this same topic, and they'd said they, were interested in possibly having some speed tables. And so they asked me how I'd proceed. I said, well, the first thing is foremost, as I represent the residents, I need to know the residents really want that. That she was the first person in the 2 years I've been on council to bring that up to me. And I've had one person already say they don't want it. Now, I don't know who. I don't. Yeah, and I've got 2 that want it. Are you the one I spoke to? Oh, so there's 3 that want it. But again, that's where you guys live. If that's important to you, and if there's enough residents who feel that way, then as your council member, I would entertain, pursuing that and seeing what it looks like. Then you have to also get the other council members on board to budget that, because that would be, so you need 3 of the 5 of us, and obviously I'm the only one here right now. But nevertheless, if that's something that the residents are interested in Riverside Drive, it's not something that I would say no to. So that, I mean, at least a list of names. I don't know if you have to do so much of like a petition and getting everybody to sign it, but if you could actually get a list of here are 25, 30 people that definitely want this, and here's their address. I'm not looking for signatures. I'm not going to go turn them in anywhere. But if there's a list of residents who genuinely want that, I'm willing to explore it.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate it.
Is this a good distance right here? All right. So
Might
my
need
name's
to raise
Matthew
that
Fish.
thing
Oh,
up.
also right. Let's see.
See if you can loosen it and raise it.
Everybody's 6'5". Yeah, I know Elvis with the mic. Pull it out. There we go. Okay. Sweet. I think this is a good volume because I can even hear it. So I actually live over on East Bay Shore. I'm like 4 doors down from Hidden Treasure, that restaurant. So something that I've noticed is the same thing where we are finding something, especially like coming off of the restaurants or just kind of taking that scenic route where, people like to have a little bit of fun as they're going down. So what he's seeing down Riverside, I'm seeing the same thing on East Bay Shore because, you go down there, you have a couple drinks, you enjoy a nice meal, and people want to jet off right in front of us on motorcycles or whatever we got.
Hopefully not a couple of drinks and then jumping on a motorcycle.
But we're not oblivious to what actually goes on. Sadly. But to follow up with that, I'm just kind of like encouraging that of what's going on. I primarily kind of door knock for a living too. So me and you can get together and I'll get something done in the neighborhood on that. And I can get that off to you.
Yeah, and I was gonna say I have tons of cards, which I will give to all of you whenever we're done here. So that way you got my email, you got my phone number, and that way we can coordinate. Because if it's important to you, then it's important to me.
Yeah, definitely. Because like my favorite thing about our neighborhood that I just kind of sell to everybody is it's so nice just to like go on a walk, just be on a walk, ride your bike, and you're just like in your own environment. So it's like, since we lack sidewalks, the roads are precious, and I'd like to kind of keep that precious too. But so I just wanted to kind of like follow up, piggyback on that. But the other thing that I've noticed is where Hidden Treasure is as a restaurant, and they also operate their power sports. Something I see frequent is the jet skis will just speed off like right through the bay. And I know that's a no wake zone, and then like there's a certain amount of feet that they can't be doing that. But the more important thing that I've noticed is some mornings when I'm out and the water's really, really still, I've seen some like leaks of oil of stuff just kind of like coming in. So I know they kind of like operate a business with a lot of stuff that goes on. So I don't know like how to even direct that to anybody with anything that comes to that. But I don't know whether there's some type of like way to check businesses that operate on the water and do something like that just to make sure that we're not like polluting what's also precious to us. So that's kind of a big thing there.
So we share responsibilities with those. We do not have a marine unit, but we work closely with FWC. We also work with the county and the Coast Guard as well. I was actually just at a Coast Guard meeting where we bring up a variety of topics. I don't know when the next one's scheduled, but I have my contacts. So we can forward so you're talking about right where the operation's happening, or is where you're noticing the contaminants in the water somewhere else?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like right there. So, I mean, if I talk about feet, I'm maybe 400 feet, 500 feet from the restaurant where it is right there. And it was just very noticeable, and nobody else has a boat in the water from me to them. So, I mean, it's one of those, and there's a boat that's just been there forever. So,
Right.
I mean, I don't mind someone utilizing the property that they own. It's just if they're not making sure what they have like in the water that's shared with us is just like being monitored.
Right, because you're gonna have fuel, and we can forward that. A lot of that crosses over. Frequently, FWC will work with EPA, U.S. Corps of Army, U.S. Corps of Engineers, just for a variety of reasons, and because you have the impact to the ecosystem. So I'll make a note of it. We'll forward it along.
Appreciate that. All right, I appreciate that.
I'm Marissa Rodriguez. I live on this side of the neighborhood. I'm on Cedar Street. We have this lovely bridge on Main Street here, and I've talked to several of the residents, and a lot of us kind of agree that we'd like to paint a mural on that bridge. Don't know where I would possibly begin to get permissions to do such a thing. We would pay for it ourselves, and I wouldn't mind being in charge of, spearheading it, but I don't know how to start.
Yeah, start with the manager's office. I'll give you my card. I'll get somebody to call you. We don't have a policy for it, so we'll set something up and allow.
Somebody was telling me it goes through Department of Transportation. So
This is our bridge, so
okay.
is it? That'd be the county. We'll find out who ownership is. If it's our bridge, we would be able to do it.
Great. And would the city be willing to help fund it, or would that be something that we'd have to do ourselves?
Now, didn't you just say you were going to fund it yourself? I think I heard that. I think the first step would be, like you said, starting with the city manager's office. Let's find out who owns it and take the steps from there.
I mean, I'm sure I can go to the residents, a couple bucks here, a couple bucks there. It would just really make it pretty. And okay, we have actually issues with graffiti on it right now as we speak.
So we could cover it up with something a little nicer that way.
Exactly. And hopefully if it's something bright and cheery, beachy, that, it would, detract from future,
We're in the process in the Down Under area. We lease that from DOT where Dunes Brewery is in that area, and we're looking at some murals in there as well. So it's not something that's a foreign concept of, absolutely not. It's a matter of just making sure that we follow the correct procedure so that there's some kind of policy in place to protect you and whatever gets painted there so it's inappropriate.
Oh, of course. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. else about that. Yeah, just hold it. Is this? Yeah.
Okay. I live just across the street over here on Oak Street, and I'm pretty sure that everybody's aware in our neighborhoods of all the drug activity that's going on, especially on US 1, right next to the veterinary service. They've had raids, we know, because we've seen them there, the cops. And then the next day, they're right back at it again. We've got drug mules. The people in the neighborhood know who the drug mules are, coming through the neighborhood all the time. And what's being done? Nothing. A few years ago, we had one up on right off of Seminole, and all of us got together. We went to a council meeting. It took us to go to council meetings to finally get those drug people out of that house. You know what they did? They moved to a house over to a garage over on Riverside. So then we started working on that. We kept calling people. They come out. And finally, they had a big raid out there, SWAT team and everything. They got rid of that. You know what? Then they moved over to US 1, right next to the veterinary service. They're still riding their bicycles, carrying their drugs to our neighborhood, and nothing is being done. We want them out of our area, period.
Well, just to address, so you made mention of that. We do follow up on all of those. I think the one that you're mentioning, if you saw it on social media, the last one we did. So we follow those up. We start those off usually as anonymous complaints. We'll begin to work it at the street level in attempting to purchase or stop people that have purchased narcotics. And then from that point, we obtain a search warrant, and then that's when we're able to go in. Once we make the arrest, though, after that, it's into the criminal justice system. It's as frustrating for us as it is for you. A lot of these people are frequent flyers that we've arrested many, many times, but we can't control that. So if you saw the one that we did here, we arrested 19 people in that arrest. And then in the separate one, about 2 weeks earlier, I think that arrest we had about 12. So there's a lot of crossover. I agree with you, but we can talk to the state's attorney, and a lot of times we'll do that and say, look, this has been a problem location. They'll look at what some of the criminal histories are. Sometimes if there's an enhanced penalty, but a lot of times you're correct. If they haven't been arrested prior or 1 or 2 times, the penalty will be low. They will let them out, and we just keep doing what we do. So. We just recently we have some additional resources. We just assigned one of our undercover detectives to the East Side Volusia County Task Force. So we're working with the Sheriff's Office and all the other municipal agencies, and they will also come into Port Orange to assist us with locations and any kind of narcotics complaints that we get. Prior to that, we were handling it internally with our Special Investigations Unit, but now we have the additional resource of the task force. So. I know they've been busy. Obviously, I can't talk about some of the cases they're working, but and that's why we put that out there. Like once we do make an arrest or we do hit a certain location with a search warrant, we try to push that out so that the neighborhood knows, that these people were arrested and what was done. But I agree with you. The one we did here with the 19 arrests, I was getting emails within a day or two that some of the people had already gotten out and had come back to the property, and that's beyond my control, unfortunately. But we'll continue to work it. So, and we approach it from different angles. So if you noticed, aside from the narcotics investigation and the law enforcement end of it, we also came out with code with the building department, to see what's an unsafe structure. Can we take control of this location and prevent people from coming back just based on those problems, if there's issues with the building itself. So we look at it from every angle, and we'll take whatever approach we can to address it. So, but for those of you too, if you have a complaint or you're hesitant to call, and you can make an anonymous complaint directly to us and to the department, or through dispatch. I'll give you my card if you want to email it to me, and then we go from there. We get them all the time. There's also a link on our webpage under the Office of the Chief that says contact the Office of the Chief. That email goes directly to myself, Assistant Chief Bill Proctor, and our admin, and then from there we'll forward it out to whatever unit needs to handle it. Mhm. Yes. I got two going. You can. In that case, that particular owner was arrested on that case, and then at some point there is nuisance abatement and things you can do. It takes a while to get to those steps, but if somebody's operating something that's operating specifically as a drug house, there are steps you can take. It's not an easy route, to take someone's personal property, and you have to show that pattern, of that criminal activity over and over again. But it is possible. And then on the code side, though, they also did that, with the fines, and then we turn into liens. And then at some point, if that person doesn't satisfy his code obligations and the fines and liens that are out there, that's another avenue of approach that we can take as well. So, like I said, we look at it from all angles. Even if it's an unsafe structure, then that's a done deal. Nobody can be in the structure itself. But he did they ended up coming back into compliance, and he cleaned out that back area that was there. You're right, because there were people in the front. There was also that camper in the back. So they came back in, code went in with building. They made the improvements that they needed to. But it's obviously a property we still have on our radar, and we'll keep watching. Right. No, I would absolutely say notify us so that we can address it. Send at least patrol to go out there. Yeah. All right. We'll forward.
I gotta say, and I'm just for 1 second, Chief, if you don't mind.
Yep.
The thing, no, I appreciate it because you're bringing up a legitimate concern, right? And it's something obviously we're acutely aware of. It's not going unseen. The wheels of government turn so slow, and is the most frustrating thing because you just want to get something done because you know what the right thing is. But unfortunately, sometimes there are all these steps in bureaucracy where government gets in its own way and doesn't allow you to operate. And a good example of that is with property rights. The state of Florida protects property owners' rights. And so we have an issue in my neighborhood with somebody who passed away. Their children inherited the house and they don't maintain it. And the grass is waist high, not knee high, waist high. And this is 2 streets over from me, and I'm a sitting council member, and I can't get it done without going through these government processes. But it's incredibly frustrating. But the biggest asset the city has, more or less, is its citizens. And I know it's annoying because it feels like you guys are picking up some things we're not able to do. But if you're able to alert us and notify us, hey, there's somebody under the bridge right now. There are things that I know Chief and our police staff, they have on their radar that they are actively looking for tips on and things. And some things move along like that. It always helps to have residents letting us know because you can be extra eyes, extra ears, and that's a huge asset to the city. So an informed citizen and one who's willing to do that extra step to notify us is monumental in helping move things along. We still have to figure out who owns that bridge, right? Because we're not sure that that canal may be B23 canal, which would be the county's. So the county may own the bridge.
know if it's all night. I don't stay and watch it. But I do know that he's actively going to clean that house and his garage again. And just when I pulled up to come here, one of the 19 that we've arrested was sitting at the park at the bridge, no shirt on, and I thought he had a stick and there was a shovel, and he was sitting on the bench there at the canal, so I don't know what he was doing. I did take a picture of him. I mean, this is what we deal with every day. And I don't know, I understand that you can't do this, but I'm pretty sure every one of them is on pretrial release or probation, and maybe they can get harassed like we get harassed every day. I mean, between the needles and then going through the neighborhood, it's not where we want our kids right now. I mean, we're over it. They go from Seminole, that gets busted. They go to the garage, that gets busted. They go right here, that gets busted. They go right back in there. So it's like, something has to get done. That's what we feel like.
Thank you.
Well, and it has to do with the parks. It is not just the park there on where the bridge is. We have a park across from our area that vehicles come up there all hours of the night. I know some of them have gone over there fishing, but there's a sign there that says not to be there after dusk. So it just worrisome to me because I feel like there's a lot of people that drive through that neighborhood or stop there to case the houses out to see when people are there and when they're not there. Because there have been things missing on Cedar Street.
Okay, did anybody else have a question? I'll bring you the microphone. I'll make it easy for you. All right, we have another question in the back. I heard that.
All right. So it's not as much of a question, but the house that we're talking about on US 1, that's the green one, correct? Okay. Yeah, so I am like in the works of talking to one of the owners. Was the gentleman that y'all arrested, was that technically the owner or was that the squatters that have been there?
One of the owners was arrested. Okay. And if we're talking about the same case, yeah.
Okay. There is a gentleman that I'm talking to right now, and we're trying to get it figured out, getting them out and getting something done to sell the property and to get it to somebody else that's actually going to take care of that. So that's what I'm trying to get done, because that's something that can actually be sped up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've had neighbors like us just talk, be like, hey, I had a bike stolen from my backyard, and I'm like, your backyard? Yeah. So that's something that we can like try to be a little bit more proactive about, but there's also still to understand, because like I know they're doing a great job of trying to step into those things to get them out, but there's still like if someone doesn't want to sell their property or stuff like that, there's still certain barriers that we still have to go over there. So I mean, I'm like in a nuisance sometimes when it comes to the right people on certain things. So I mean, I'm gonna still kind of try to pepper them and see what I can do. But actually, I have been talking to the gentleman that is either the owner. He's at least told me he's the owner, and I found him through skip tracing for his info. But we're in the works of trying to get that fixed up. I've got some other people that I have in mind that might be a better fit for it, just because of the zoning with the way it sits. Like you have that residential home that is grandfathered in, and then you have that ability to do light commercial. There's one gentleman, he's a younger dude, but he has a family and a small AC business. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Not many people just want to live on US 1. It's high traffic, but if you're going to live there and also have your business there with a few trucks, that makes sense. So I'm trying to figure out something that actually works rather than just someone that it's just going to turn over again. So that's my try to, give a little piece into that insight.
All right, does anybody else have a question? I will bring the microphone to you. All right, 1 second.
I have one. It's just a very quick question. I live in the shores, but I have your water.
Yes.
And so, which is
yes,
fine.
you do.
I live in the city of the shores, not the county, which is on the other side of me. Nobody owns my easement, so we'll just go that another day. But that water situation that you referred to,
I was delayed getting here because I had a water situation, but it's temporarily fixed. But I could call your hotline and they will come no matter where I live, just as long as I'm using your water.
That's correct.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yes, because you're in the shores. That is our water system. We take care of all the piping, all the water system piping. We don't take care of sewer at the shores. The shores takes care of sewer collection. We take care of all potable water, meters, pipes, everything. You're welcome. Okay.
I'm Jan Gregoire. I live about across the street on Riverside. Been here since '95. We remodeled the house, and of course our house wasn't brought up at the time. You didn't have to bring it up 6 or 7 feet, whatever it is. It was the first time we flooded in that big storm. My whole downstairs got it, and it wasn't just me. It was several other people in the neighborhood, and I know that John and his wife, I can't remember his last night, they've been working on it with the city. I got all the paperwork. But what are you going to do about the water and the drainage on Riverside Drive? And there's a lot of little parks that are sitting like next to where Bob the Shoemaker lives that nobody uses except for parking when they have a party. Why can't you make a drainage pond out of it or something? But we get a lot of water coming down from Ridgewood, and boy, that storm did us in 1.5 feet.
So part of the problem with Halifax, Riverside Drive is, of course, the river. That roadway is like 1 foot above sea level. So at high tide, it's going to come over. It's going to get in that roadway regardless of what I do. Mother Nature seems to have a mind of her own. And when the king tides come, you cannot hold that back. So having said that, when it is high tide, all the water drains to the Halifax River. So if the river is up and the pipes are trying to drain to the river, they can't drain until the tides go out. So there is a lot of properties throughout our community where you are, especially those that are on the east side of Ridgewood, where they drain directly into that river. And if the tides are high, it can't go anywhere. It's like trying to drain your bathtub, when there's something else that's higher than the bathtub. It moves slower, but it will back up until the tide goes out and then all the water goes away.
I understand that. Quite a few years, you could tell 4 or 5 houses up the street, they were in canoes, almost all the way to Anacat.
Yep.
When it comes down, it comes from both sides. They told us they were doing something about it. They were starting to put a new ridge in the house next to me, where they were going to start putting more drainage. Where did they stop?
That I can't tell you. I don't know. That would probably be with our building department. They set the elevations and how water runs off redeveloped properties or new properties when they build or redevelop.
This was in the first 15 feet of the road
Mm-hmm.
that the city owns, and they said they were going to. I know the house next door, a brand new house, has to go down so much, and they were explaining something about there was going to be more drainage. Haven't seen them do anything.
Yeah, it's a tough situation because, again, everything drains to the river. And if the river elevation is high.
First time since 1995 that
yeah.
2 houses got flooded.
Yeah, yeah. We will take it. And what street was that? Cedar? Riverside. We'll take another look at it. But again, the problem is, again, when the river is high, I can't hold the river back. And that's part of the problem. But we'll take a look. I'll take a look
Lynn,
at it.
do you have a card by chance?
I did not bring
That's
a
okay.
card.
I'm gonna give you one of mine.
All right, does anybody else have any questions? I think we have 2 over here. I'm on my way. Y'all give me exercise tonight.
My name is Brenda Wilson, and I live on Riverside, close to the Wall property. I just wonder, does the city or does the Wall property owners, do they have riparian rights to the bay there? The reason I ask is because the sign says houses with dockage, but yet I think we see that the city mows the yard or mows on that side. Because right next to me, there's a unpotted park boulevard, and the city mows, that area, but then they put down right in the front.
I'm going to need to get our community development director to confirm that because I don't have the plats in front of me, but I believe so. What you're describing, the same thing is usually the right of way. They have the right to be in the water on the other side of it, even if it crosses public right of way, which might be the area that we're mowing. Because I think there are other areas farther north where we also maintain the edges of the road, but there are docks on the other side of the river that are attached to the properties behind them. So I believe that property does, because if I can remember correctly from the proposal, they had that as part of the development. So I'm pretty sure they do, but I'll get the community development director to confirm that. They did, yeah. It was started and they had signs on the property, and then we have not heard anything. I wasn't working here at the time when it fell apart, so I don't know why it went away, but it has not resurfaced since I've been back.
Okay, was there another question over here? I think I saw him.
Yeah, no, we're right there on Oak Street, first property by the bridge. First of all, you guys are doing an excellent job. This is just our time to tell you what we think you can do better. But this one is Ms. Stevens. Today, you guys cut down a tree right across from our house on the canal. That one happened to have blue herons in it. That's where they come every year and migrate to and they live in. And that happens to be a protected bird. And what gives you guys the right to just take down that tree, which was not, I mean, I have pictures, I have video of the tree, our cameras face it, so I don't want to hear anything. It wasn't rotted, there was a couple limbs maybe, but nobody looked, nobody asked, and they just wouldn't cut it down today. I was very upset about it, and I'm sure there's other people now that may know about it. Why?
So I don't have an answer for you right now, but if you give me the address, I'll certainly look it up and I'll get back with you and let you know.
It's in the park where the bridge is, so it'd be on Bayshore, right there in the park. Huge oak tree that they cut down today. They started yesterday. I thought they were just trimming it up. That's why yesterday I never brought it up. I called the city today. Nobody ever called me back either.
I did not get a phone call, so I'm not sure. If it's in the park, it may have been the Parks Department and not necessarily the Grounds Department. So I just need to double check and find out exactly what happened. If you would, if you just drop me an email, lstevens@port-orange.org, drop me an email. I'll get an answer for you.
Or you could send it to that email on that card, and I'll make sure it gets to the right department.
I mean, it's protected bird. Anytime we would go cut the tree, we have to get permission. We have to do this. I don't know what made you guys do it, let alone with those birds in there.
Again, we wouldn't normally just go out and cut a tree down for no reason. So if our department cut a tree down, there has to be a reason that we did that. So I don't want to just, say, oh, well. Yeah, I'd like to find out more information and be able to give you that information and let you know exactly why and what happened. We, too, file permits. So even though a lot of trees that Public Works does remove in our right-of-way, usually because it's interfering with some infrastructure or our arborist has deemed it to be a hazardous tree, is generally the ones that we would go and remove. And when we remove a tree, although we're not required to have a permit by the city for certain trees like a palm tree or some other smaller trees, we do fill out the permit forms and keep them on file so that we know exactly what we've done. Yes. So again, just let me take a look at it and find out more particulars about the entire issue. So if you just drop me an email, I will find out tomorrow what happened.
Okay, is there any other questions? Right here in the front.
Joe's not feeling the love.
I was going to say that. I've got a question for the fire chief. No, I was being sarcastic. Poor Joe isn't getting any love.
Oh, gosh. I'm sorry. Joe, we love you. Don't worry about it, man. We're okay. I guess this is probably pick on the police chief line. I don't know. But we live on Hensel Drive, Hensel Road, out in the high school. And the speeding out there is getting ridiculous. I sat
coming out. I live in we live in Sweetheart Hills, okay? And it took me 10 minutes to get on to make a left-hand turn to go on over to Taylor Road because of speeders. And they look at you, you look at them and they think, well, you're crazy, What's I know Port Orange is a big city, and you have a lot to patrol. But could you maybe start sending some units in? Now, I did see a motorcycle.
Yeah, I was going to tell you. So I live over there as well. So they catch my eye. So I can tell you they've been out there. I've gotten that complaint before. And not just the motormen. There have been uniformed officers in there. I get different time periods. A lot of the first one I got was weekends were out of control, and then I got the commuter hours and obviously now that school's coming back in session, I'm sure we'll hear that. But Motors has been out there both on Hensel and on Taylor because I got a complaint that why are the Motors writing tickets to the residents? So they go out and so it works both ways. You complain and we go out and be careful what you wish for, right? So, but they have been out there, and then what you'll also see if you notice too is the presence. So we like if our officers have to do a report or if they're doing paperwork in their car, we prefer that they sit in the parking lot close to the roadway, even if it's just as a deterrent. So just that visual presence of that police car there, and you'll notice you always see them sitting at Nova. Right there in the corner, Nova and Spruce Creek, you'll see them pretty much up and down Clyde, and a lot of that's just that presence, that deterrence, and then the additional signage that we put out, the speed signs. I know people once they get used to them, but it's just a reminder, especially ones that flash that show you, hey, you're going 42 miles an hour in a 30. But no, we'll give it some more attention. So we have 6 motors. I was able to add one earlier this year. As staffing changes, I look to traffic. Traffic is obviously one of the biggest complaints any police department gets all over the place. So it's something we try to address. And, as staffing changes, I was looking already to add some additional motormen because that's all they do is traffic crash investigation, traffic homicide, and traffic enforcement. So
we do a great job. I'm not lucky, but no means. We appreciate everybody here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there another question? Frequent flyer.
He hit his quota.
So this one's actually an answer for that development lot that's right there. So there's potential riparian rights for dockage with city approval. So I'm asking for just confirmation on this. When that pretty bright yellow sign's out there saying that there's going to be a meeting about something, if we see that sign out there, that's when we need to show up, right?
That was when there was a public hearing coming, so that would be you don't have to wait on the meeting. You can also go on the website to the development activity report and read the information, so you can find out what's going on well before there's the actual meetings. There's ways to be involved before the meeting occurs as well. So I would encourage you to be ahead of it, not just at the meeting night, because if there's a chance to get to the applicant, if they're changing zoning at all, they're going to have a neighborhood meeting, and you have a chance to talk to them before they've moved forward. And that's your best bet to influence what they're doing with it, because they haven't gotten so far as the extra money being spent to get to council. They're probably more willing to work with residents because I think the council members, and he can speak for it, prefer not to have a neighborhood full of people showing up in opposition. It's better for them to work with you prior to that happening.
Yeah, and every time a yellow sign goes up, my email box gets a little bit fuller. So trust me, if you see one go up and you have questions, if you're looking for the information, you can ask that. I'll either help you find it or, find it on the website for you and direct you to it, or I'll find, a city manager has an assistant. So somehow we'll get you that information so you're aware. But, they have usually for projects of certain sizes, there's a public meeting that the developer does all on their own, which is a neighborhood community meeting. Sometimes they'll do 2. And then we have a first reading and a second reading in council. So there's at least 3 bites of the apple for residents to come in just in meetings alone, let alone if you want to reach out to me directly ahead of schedule, or if they have an extra community meeting. What was the one I'm trying to think over there by Sugar Mill by the elementary school? I think they ended up doing 3 neighborhood meetings because they wanted to get all that feedback and help make the residents feel better about that project before they started actually breaking ground and before it even came to council. So yeah, if you ever are looking for that information and you're trying to figure it out, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. That's what we're here for.
It wasn't that case the one where they actually modified the project based on community feedback from townhouses to single-family homes. As a result, it didn't get to them. It got handled in the community meeting phase before it got actually in front of the city council.
Right.
Did I see a hand over here?
I'm going to be nice to you. I don't have a question or a pick. I had an experience where law and fire was involved, and I want to thank you for the kindness and the courteousness that you showed all of us around. I appreciate you very much. I do have one question.
You said no questions.
I know. That came out first and it was wrong. I apologize. Not a hard question. How's that? Fire Chief, you mentioned the collection.
Let's go, Joe.
You mentioned the collection of sharps.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm new to Florida. Do you do reclamation of expired drugs?
Police department does. Do you know where the police station is at 45 Clyde? If you go to the left, there's a drop bin right there.
Okay, great. See what I'm doing. I found out something tonight. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That technically wasn't for Joe. On a technicality, that was not for you.
All right, so another question?
It's not really a question, maybe a suggestion. Is there any way that we could, as you guys get answers to your questions tonight, could we post these answers like on the Ring app, like the Neighbors app, or like on Facebook? Can we?
Did you just technically ask everyone but Joe in the question room? Or sorry, everyone a question but Joe in the room?
No, if we get answers, we'd all like to find out what's going on. When we leave here today, we're not going to have answers.
You can always, I mean, if you're asking us, of course, anything that we put out there is public information. So you can obviously share that with your residents, and handle that amongst yourselves how you want to. But if you send an email and we get back to you with information and you want to share that, whether that's Facebook, neighborhood app, or if you want to print it off and door to door it.
Where, okay, those people finally moved out of that house, or they're gone, yay! So we can share with our neighbors.
I'm sure that Pastor Mike would love it if you would put it on a bulletin board somewhere inside of the church. So.
So nothing new. I just wanted to, in support of Matt, because I live a couple houses down, for him also on the water. How many times in support of him and us, we've seen the jet skiers leaving that hidden treasures. I even have a photograph of a dolphin right in the middle of the water, them zipping by it, manatees out there. And you're saying, don't call you guys, call FWC is the best approach on that, because it's kind of a business, but it's also the wildlife.
With the boating violations, yes, because the FWC will frequently work with us. We do have some mutual aid with Daytona Beach, but there's not a vessel that's going to be that close that's going to be able to get there that quickly. It is something that we've spoken about because I do see the need for it. Like I said, I've been here. I'm going into my 10th month, and as we get further along, I am looking for grant opportunities to try to address some of those things because so Port Orange actually has the entire Halifax, so we end on the other side of the bridge. So the waterways technically are in our city, even though some of it's state controlled, especially with the islands. So there's different jurisdictional issues. But I am looking to get to that, and it would have to be a vessel that's small enough to get back into Spruce Creek, and so we can address personally those things. Especially on the weekends, as fish comes online, you're going to see more and more boat traffic. So I think we're trying to time those things because I think as that develops out, it's something we're going to need to address and can't rely solely on the county or FWC. The county will respond as well. They also have, obviously, they have jurisdiction in all of Volusia, and they do have multiple marine unit vessels, so we can also address it with them.
No, because I've seen them enough when we get out to the intercoastal. And then also the speeding thing that has really progressed more. A good point that we don't have sidewalks over there. And I've seen also, like everything you guys have talked about tonight, because almost every morning I'll go on a 2-mile walk with my dog up I live on Bayshore, Riverside, all of that. So I'm seeing all of this and some more eye-opening stuff today. So I'm glad I came.
Okay, is there another question?
You said that last time.
I wasn't aware
until Judy mentioned the fire, that you responded to the fire. It was my home, and my husband was killed, and I appreciate it. I had no idea you were there. They kind of kept me away from it, but I appreciate everything you do, and law enforcement, everybody, but especially to the fire department and you guys.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, is there any other questions for anybody, including Joe? Has anybody got any other questions? This is your time to speak. Yes, no, y'all wore yourself out? Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Any other questions? All right, so do you guys have any other concluding comments before we wrap this up?
You want to say anything? Anyone? Wayne?
Just one thing about the quality of this community. So I've been around it a couple of times for meetings in the past. I remember the Hidden Treasures there when it first started with the parking issues. And as the city is almost built out, so we're about out of new land on the west. We're going to stop seeing less growth. There's going to be infill and little leftover spots in some of the older parts of the town. Somebody will tear down or rebuild or remodel, as you heard tonight. One of the most important things, and Councilman Foley and I talk about this a lot, is making sure that the east side of town, that's a little bit older, does not decline. It's really important to maintain the quality of the older parts of town. One of the things about this neighborhood, this is just my perception of it, but when I can tell the strength of a neighborhood and where there are people in that care, if you drive around at Christmas time and look what places look like at Christmas time, and the decorations that are over there are incredible. I think when we run our Christmas decoration contest, the top 2 or 3 of the top 5 are in this vicinity of the town. So I think that says a whole lot about the commitment of you as residents and the quality of that community. So we want to be sure that you are not left behind and that your neighborhood does not decline going forward, because it's going to be critical to us as we move forward as a city.
So what I'm going to ask of all of you, again, everything that we've done here today, if anyone did not get a card of mine, please see me afterwards. Let's make sure that we get those so you can get my number and my email and contact me. We really do want to try to help you. I also am going to ask that you guys give a lot of thanks to these 4 for joining me, because not only do they work really hard jobs, 40, 50, 60 hours, they also have families and things, and they took time out of their evening to be here with me at mine and Pastor Mike's request. So please give them a round of applause as gratitude from me.
Mr. Foley, I did have one question. You have to forgive my ignorance on this.
Okay.
Because honestly, I don't know. I probably should have asked you sooner when we're meeting this. The area that's across the street here with the brick wall. What's going on with that? Because it's been kind of vague the last few years.
Well, I think we kind of addressed it a little bit, but just Wayne can kind of hit these points one more time.
Yeah, I might have
So, well, you were running the microphone all over. I totally understand. So the developer that was interested in the property has since backed out. It seems like there's nothing that I'm aware of now going forward. So it's just going to be a vacant lot for a little while longer, from what we can tell.
And if you had one of the fun things is I'm used to working in the development world with people who are in their younger years who pull up everything and read it on their phone. And so all that stuff's available, but I can't see my phone without glasses. So, and it sounds like we do have a tech whiz there in the back who might have pulled it up quicker than I could. I did email or text the guy to see if he could get me an answer, but I don't have it yet.
Well, either way, I just want to make sure again, I'd like, Chief, Wayne, Lynn, thank you guys for being here. Pastor Mike, thank you for inviting us and arranging this. I think that's awesome as well. And for all of you who are here, thank you for showing up. You never know when you're going to do one of these, what it's going to be like. You never know if you're going to get pitchforks or if you're going to have one person in the audience. But, it's wonderful to have a community that cares. And like I was saying, you guys are a huge secret weapon for us and a huge asset. And by being here and being plugged in, it makes our job easier to do, because ultimately all 5 of us who are here, as well as the others on council, as well as those in the staff who are not here, the 500 and some employees we have, we're all here to serve you. So thank you guys for being here. And thank you again, Pastor Mike, for inviting us.
Yes, sir. I just want to share that, this church is in the community of Harbor Oaks, which was Harbor Oaks before it became Port Orange. And one of our goals here is to be able to give our community a voice. And that's one of the reasons why we decided to put this meeting together. And that's why I've been meeting with Mr. Foley, because we wanted to give this community a voice. We felt like, and I know I personally felt like that maybe this part of Port Orange really didn't get the voice that it should. And so this is an avenue for that purpose. Our plan going forward is to do at least a couple of these types of meetings a year with different folks. And so you might not see the police chief, or you might not see Joe. We'll miss you, Joe. But we might not. But our plan is to get different folks out here, and maybe your question didn't get addressed because the person that you want to talk to wasn't here. We're going to plan on doing this again in the spring. I think that's Mr. Floyd and I talked about that, but we haven't got it nailed down yet. So when we do, we'll get as much advertisement out as possible. So that's the plan going forward. So if you miss something today, come later. You'll get an opportunity. Does that make sense? Okay. I want to thank each one of y'all for being here, for both the chiefs and the city manager. Miss Lynn, thank you for being here, and thank you, Mr. Fuller, for being here. This is with no other questions. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. If y'all don't mind, I'm going to wrap it up with a word of prayer, and then y'all will be officially dismissed. If you need a card from one of these folks, feel free to come up here and grab one of those, okay? Father, thank you for this time that you've given us, Lord, to get educated, Lord, about our city, what's going on in our city, and how we can be a better citizen. Father, I pray that you'd help us, Lord, as we've gotten some answers and some answers we haven't got yet. Lord, I pray that you would just guide us, Father, and I pray that you guide these leaders, and Lord, help them to do their jobs. And Lord, I just ask that you would just show them, Lord, your path. Father, thank you for the opportunity that we have, Lord, to